Mr. Spin here, and you probably noticed that I have been away for a while. Again, real life stuff, most of all, and because of that, I again needed a mental break. But I swear, this is the last time I ever get a mental break, unless something else decided to, take a mental toll on me. But don't worry, I'm back. I'm not leaving you guys, as I promise, Pinky promised that I will never leave you guys at all. I never leave you guys. Anyways, today, this is Halloween, or as most of us ponies would like to call, Nightmare Night. So, naturally, I'm gonna start reading Now, normally this is the perfect time for me to do fanfic readings. More specifically right now, creepypastas. If you guys don't know what a creepypasta is, then you pretty much, don't know. I'll give you a brief summary, but for those who do know, then you probably know what I'm about to say. But for those who don't, and obviously sleep under the rock, don't worry. Most of us slept under a rock, including me. So I'm going to give you a brief little recap. A creepypasta is a derived interpretation of copypasta, where one story was copy and pasted around the internet. Naturally, a creepypasta is a horror story that's copy and pasted around the internet. And, of course, there's a lot of creepypastas that are, of course, in the creepypasta website. Or, they're kind of like a horror story, in a meme of a way. But there are some creepypastas that could be seen on other fanfic websites. And there are many, icon creepypastas like Sonic.exe, like one of them. Of course, one of the big three, I would say, when I say big three, because they're pretty much horror icons of the creepypasta. Slenderman, Jeff the Killer, and Eyeless Jack. So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading two MLP Creepypastas. One that is the Experiments of Twilight Sparkle, and of course, a remaster of the Rainbow Factory, because I did a video of me reading the Rainbow Factory long ago when I was reading creepypastas, when I started reading a creepypasta. So yeah, Rainbow Factory is one of my favorite creepypasta fanfics, but I'm gonna do a remaster of it this time, because, that video is kind of cringe, I'll be honest. But yeah, let's go ahead and start reading. First, I'm going to be reading the Experiments of Twilight Sparkle, and then I'm going to be reading the I'm going to be reading the Experiments of Twilight Sparkle first, and then I'm going to be reading the Rainbow Factory, the remaster. So, no, not the fanfic, but I'm remastering the Rainbow Factory in this video. So you get pretty much two creepypastas in one video. So sit back, relax. It's time for a creepy fanfic reading. Chapter 1. Like how many stories began, it was a nice sunny day in Ponyville. But this was no ordinary day in Ponyville. This was the day before the first anniversary of Twilight Sparkle's arrival at Ponyville. Spike was sorting books in Twilight's library, putting them in their proper order on the bookshelves. Twilight signaled Spike to come to her. Spike, I'm planning a party with just me and my 5 closest pony friends. There's going to be something there that concerns only the 6 of us. Sorry you're not invited, however. You can send these invitations to them. Spike sighed. Okay. After Spike left, Twilight took a sip of her favorite hot orangey green drink and spoke softly to herself. Princess Celestia sent me here to learn about the magic of friendship. Tomorrow, the 1-year anniversary of my arrival at Ponyville, so I'm going to give her something special. She finished with her cheery face. Pinky had nothing to do that afternoon, lying on her couch bored. She heard the doorbell ring. Eek! A customer! I get it! She exclaimed. Opening the door, she said, "Welcome to Sugar Cube Corner, home of Ponyville's finest pastries and..." "Oh, hello, Spike. Have you come to buy a cake?" She saw the baby dragon. handing her an invitation. No, but here. An invitation from Twilight. She took and read it. A party? Today? As soon as possible? To learn more about friendship? I love that stuff. But I'm the one who usually throw parties. Oh well, I'll be right there. At Twilight's place, all 6 ponies were there. Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, Rarity, Rainbow Dash, Applejack, and Twilight. Spike was upstairs in his bed taking a nap from the hard work he did all day. The party was great. Colorful balloons and confetti were everywhere. There was delicious cake, fun games, music, dancing, and gifts. Everyone was having a great time. Basically a blast. Rainbow Dash and Applejack had just finished a game of Pin to Scale on the Dragon when they noticed Twilight sitting alone watching the other ponies dance while having her usual beverage. Something was off about her. They couldn't quite tell what. Hey there, Sugar Cube. What's up? Asked AJ, approaching Twilight alongside Rainbow Dash. I had no idea you could throw such an awesome party, Twi, exclaimed Dash. Excuse me, Twilight said. Be honest, Twi, Applejack spoke. Pinkie is the party-throwing pony. Anyway, how's everything? Twilight was happy to respond. Yes, Pinkie is the party-throwing pony, isn't she? Parties, food, and games are fine, but the bigger reason I invited you all here was well, let's just say I planned something special for all 6 of us, to really learn more about the magic of friendship. Several hours later, the ponies were tired and worn out from all that partying they did. Yes, sir. It was another satisfying party for the ponies. Thanking Twilight, they were about to head to the door just to leave, but Twilight stopped them. Wait, I saved the best for last. Rainbow Dash let out a sigh. Can it wait, dear? We're exhausted, said Rarity. Now, Rare, Twilight did say to Dash and I that she was planning something special at the end of the party. Something to really learn more about friendship, Applejack told Rarity. Everyone paused, and then looking at each other, they all agreed to stay. Twilight was so grateful. Thank you, every pony. I'm happy to have such great friends. Chapter 2. Twilight led all her 5 pony friends through a door. A short hall was on the other side, with 2 bookshelves alongside each other embedded into the right wall. Each shelf had books and laboratory flasks filled with magic potions resting in them, and a lantern hanging above them, the lanterns giving off a dim light, but it was still enough to see their way through. Passing through the short hall, they made a left turn and descended down some stairs. Fluttershy, however, was hesitant, but Pinkie turned to her and gave her a reassuring smile. After making a right turn, then a left, and another right, they finally arrived at the bottom of the long stairs and into what looked like a lavatory and a darkened cave. The only light in the room was coming from some of the lanterns embedded in the walls, and from the electricity running through some metal rods sticking out of some machinery against the cave walls. Various tree branches were sticking out of the walls and coming out from the ceiling, extending to the ground. Some were wrapped around the machinery. At the center of the room was what appeared to be a control panel. 5 metallic tables forming a semicircle around the control device. They were tilted towards and facing the control panel, each about 5 meters from the control panel. The purple unicorn brought the laboratory flask and filled with her favorite drink to her mouth and took a sip. Beautiful, isn't it? What is everyone looking at? Twilight, did you just drink a potion out of that glass container used to hold the chemicals? One of the other ponies questioned. She answered, it's one of my most favorite drinks. You've seen me drink this before. Out of a that? Rarity asked. Don't worry, it's clean. I do not know why, but I sometimes just like drinking out of a lab flask. Weird, I know, replied Twilight Sparkle. No one thought much of it. Rarity pointed out 3 skeletal models of ponies up against one of the cavern walls. One of each kind of pony, supported by poles. Those are just plain creepy, said Rarity. Twilight was glad that someone was taking notice of them. Oh, you like them? These pony skeleton models weren't too difficult to make, especially given them nicknames. The first is a model of a male Earth pony. Doc Brown Mane is his name. He's a hot one. The second one is a female Pegasus pony. I've named her Derpstick. And the last one, the Trickster. Is a female unicorn. They're all such cuties. Everyone just stared at Twilight awkwardly. Pinkie spoke out. Say, Twilight, isn't this the same room where you tried to collect data from my Pinkie senses? In the Feeling Pinkie Keen episode? Applejack gave Pinkie a confused look. Episode? What the hey are you talking about, Pink? Yes, it is, Pinkie, Twilight said, answering Pinkie's question. Fluttershy was looking around the cave. What? What are we going to do in this unsettling place, Twilight? Science experiments, Twilight responded. Science experiments? Dash complained. Give me a break. Science isn't my thing. Rainbow Dash, scolded AJ. We said we'd stay to learn more about friendship with Twilight, and if science experiments are how we are going to learn, then by golly, we'll participate. Pinkie nodded in agreement. Yeah, Dashy, don't be a science party pooper scooper. Dash gave in. Fine. Let's get this done with. Twilight gave Dash a cheery look. Thank you, Dash. Trust me, you'll find this interesting. Alright, Everypony, get on the tilted tables, Twilight told them. Rainbow Dash began to get nervous and was hesitating. Twi? Something wrong, Dash? Oh, nothing, except this is reminding me of a dream. No, a nightmare I had 2 weeks ago. Rainbow was looking at Pinkie Pie uncomfortably, while Pinkie just smiled back obviously. Twilight tried to reverse psychology on Dash. Don't worry, I'm sure this will be nothing like your dream, but I understand if you're scared. Dash was indignant. What? I'm not scared. I'll prove it. Just like that, Dash lay on the table. I knew you could do it, Twilight said, as she directed everyone else where to lie. Everyone lied on their assigned tables, except for Fluttershy. Twilight questioned Fluttershy. What are you waiting for, Shy? Fluttershy had an unsure look on her face. Well, it's just, it looks, well, restricting and scary and, well, yeah, I'd rather not. You don't have to be afraid. I'm your friend. You trust me, right? Yeah, well, I still rather not. Twilight had a look of disapproval. I see. Twilight's horn started to glow. She used magic to push Fluttershy onto the metal board. Then she quickly went over to the control panel and pushed a button, cuffing all 5 ponies' 4 hooves, assuring that they could not escape from their platforms. Fluttershy, being as sensitive as she is, didn't take the sudden impact into the metallic platform well. She started crying. Rarity grew angry. Twilight, that was simply rude and unnecessary. And why are we cuffed to these boards? It's so tight, I can't move. Rainbow Dash began to find the situation unnerving again. Okay, Twi, this is really getting to be like my dream. A disappointed Twilight said, "I'm hurt. Don't you all trust me? I promise Everypony will benefit and learn well from this experience. So, what do you say, please, for me?" Verity spoke. "Well, alright, sorry, dear." Fluttershy's eye cleared up. "Me too, I guess." "Okay, I trust you, Twilight." "Thank you, everyone. I knew I could rely on you," Twilight said with a cheery tone. Twilight was ready to explain. "Now, what these experiments will do is to help us better understand who we are as ponies. To do this, we shall study and carefully analyze our talents. That is the meaning of our kitty marks. We also will look into the element of harmony each of us represent." Dash felt a little better. "Oh, okay. That's not so bad. That actually sounds pretty fun, though I still don't know why we need to be cuffed to these planks, but I trust you." Twilight was pleased. "Great, let's start with Pinkie Pie." "Ooh," Pinkie said with an excited voice. Twilight continued. "As we all know, Pinkie is the pink, party-throwing pony of Ponyville. She does it to bring smiles and joy to the ponies who attend the parties. That is signified by her 3-balloon cutie mark. She's energetic and has a wild, fun, loving personality. No wonder she is the carrier of the element of laughter." Dash agreed. "That's Pinkie Pie." Twilight went on. In hopes of better understanding her joyous mentality, I shall examine her mind intimately, very intimately." Applejack was slightly puzzled by that statement. Like how? To everyone's surprise, Twi gave the happy pink horse a long, passionate kiss on her tender cheek. "I love your body." "I'll be back," Twilight said as she left the room. Pinkie Pie waited in curiosity and anticipation. When she returned, they noticed that she was wearing a clean white apron, and she was carrying a metal box with her. "Is that a white apron worn by surgeons?" asked Rarity. Rainbow felt uneasy again. Pinkie Pie corrected Rarity. Don't be a silly big filly. That's a baker's apron. She wants to bake a cake like I would, to better understand my mind." The ponies were almost convinced at what Pinkie Pie said until they saw Twilight put on a surgical mask, open the box, reach inside, and take out what looked like a surgical knife. Everyone's eyes grew wide with concern, with the exception of Pinkie Pie. Pinkie was so excited. "I knew it! And that's the knife to cut the cake, right?" "Something like that," Twilight chuckled. Twilight held the scalpel close up to Pinkie's face. "Here's for science." "Careful with that knife," Pinkie said nervously. Dash's heartbeat significantly faster at the sight of a knife that close to her friend. "Twilight, I don't want to do this. Please let me go," yelled Dash. Twilight was vexed. "Why not, you silly nightmare?" Dash replied, "This is getting more and more like that nightmare. What exactly do you plan on doing with that knife anyway?" Applejack joined in. "You're worrying us, Twi." Twilight sighed in frustration. "It's for science. Just went over this. I thought you were okay with this." Pinkie watched as the knife hovered down her chest to her belly. "Shouldn't you be baking that cake now?" The Pinkie caressed the skin of Pinkie's belly. Suddenly, Twilight pushed harder on the knife. An extremely sharp tool cut through the skin and muscle of the pink pony's belly. "Ouch!" Pinkie yelled. Then Twilight quickly moved the blade straight down the belly, making a deep horizontal gash through the skin and muscle, causing Pinkie to scream in pain. It was not long before red liquid was seeping out of the wound. There was a sudden adrenaline rush in everyone from seeing what just happened. "Twilight! both Rarity and Applejack hollered. Rainbow Dash was now filled with panic. "Get me out of here!" Dash screamed, while jerking frantically, trying to break free from the metal cuffs, but to no avail. "Don't worry, Dash. I will," Rarity said. With a look of anger and determination towards Twilight, Rarity's horn began to glow as she used her magic to take hold of the knife. Right before Twilight was going to make another incision into Pinky, Twilight had an annoyed look on her face, and the irises in her eyes turned red. She tried to regain control of the scalpel with magic. "Rarity, stop!" They were both fighting for the knife, pulling on it like a game of tug of war. The purple pony had enough. She used her magic to flip a switch on the control board at the center of the room. This sent a powerful electric shock throughout Rarity's body. Her muscles instantly contracted. She shook and jerked violently, screaming out in agony from the burning heat. This left her a twitching and disoriented, allowing Twilight to take control of the surgical tool once again. All the pony test subjects had never been so scared in their lives. Turning off the power and returning to a crying Pinky, Twilight used her blade to make 2 more deep gashes on the chest of her pink friend. Both cuts were slightly down, their bottom ends joining together. Along with the top end of the first cut on Pinky's belly, there was now a capital Y-shaped incision on Pinky's entire underside. The Y turned red. The blood was beginning to flow down Pinky's chest and tummy, down to her legs, and dripping onto the floor. Moaning and weeping, she innocently asked Twilight, "Twilight, why?" Snort. "I get it. A Y incision, that's why. That's funny. Pink cliche, but still funny," snickered the surgeon. Rarity recovered enough composure to once more take control of the knife. Twilight was getting angry. She again turned the same electricity-inducing switch on. "Rarity, quit it. You're being immature." Rarity was in intense pain as before, but the electricity was roasting her body tissue to the point where it was smoking. But she fought against the horrible burn, more determined than ever to stop Twilight. Rarity used her magic to move the knife away from Twilight. Everyone else was watching in high hopes. The bookworm unicorn's anger grew. She turned off the electric current and had a quick sip from her glassware in frustration. The next thing Rarity knew, Twilight seemed to easily yank the sharp cutting instrument with her raging magic. "That is it." Twilight brought out a bone-cutting hacksaw from the silver case. Rarity tried to move the saw away from her with her glowing horn, but Twilight's magic was now too overpowering. As if getting her mad was making her magic stronger. Coming to Rarity with the hacksaw, she positioned the teeth blade at the base of the white unicorn's horn and started sawing. Rarity's magic was getting weaker with each thrust of the saw through her horn. She winced at the blade cut through some skin at around the base of the horn. A small amount of blood flew down her face. After about 30 seconds, Rarity saw her blood-stained horn dropped to the ground. Everyone's hearts sank as they watched what seemed to be their last hope of escape fall to the ground and die. Twilight let out a warning. "Any pony else who resists will be dealt with by my magic. Now, if that's all." Chapter 3. Miss Sparkle continued with the party pony. By now, Pinky had lost a significant amount of blood, nutrients, carried bodily fluid, as if it was evident by the red puddle on the floor. But below her, Twilight used her hoof to lift one of the flaps of Pinky's flesh and meat made by her huge Y-shaped wound on her underside. She stretched, compressed, and wiggled the mass of meat and skin as if she was studying it. Pinky let out a whine of great discomfort with each burning stretch and twist. Fluttershy shouted, "Leave Pinky alone! You're hurting her badly! Just listen to her cries of pain!" "Doesn't that say anything to you?" "Oh, she's just being Pinkie Pie," was Twilight's response. Fluttershy continued, "Why did you cut Pinky's belly open? She's your friend." "I told you. This is for science," Twilight answered. "She is my friend. This is why we will learn together. I opened Pinky because if I'm going to remove her brain to study it, I may as well remove the rest of her organs first." The 5 ponies were utterly shocked at what they just heard. Twilight then wore a gleeful face. "Once we're done learning about Pinkie Pie, then we shall move on to AJ, Dash, Shy, and then Rarity. And when we were finished, more will be known about the magic of friendship than ever before." All of them were breathing heavily and fast. Their hearts were pounding. Panic was in the air. "I'll be back in a second," said Twilight. They all shouted and yelled for pleas for mercy just as Twilight left the room. Upon returning, she dragged a multi-layered cart with an array of glass containers filled with a clear liquid. The 5 ponies were petrified at the freaky and unnerving sight before them. Some jars had active pony organs already inside of them. Their hearts were still beating, the lungs were still expanding and compressing, stomachs were still contracting their muscles, as if the liquid in the containers was some sort of bioelectric inducing substance. The glass bottles had labels on them. They labeled the type of organs that were in them, the ponies they belonged to. The horrified mares read the labels, some empty ones, but still with liquid. "Read Pinkie Pie." Some organs read Blue October, Pokey Pierce, and Apple Bloom. Applejack's world was further crashing down. "You killed her! You killed my sister! She was just a little helpless filly." Tears were flowing down her cheeks. The killer explained, "Well, yeah, I needed to practice before I got to Pinkie Pie. Much of science is trial and error." AJ's throat moistured, and she found it hard to swallow. All sorts of intense emotions ran through her: shock, fear, despair, rage. "You know, it's interesting. This taboo society, ponies were always more sensitive about young foals being hurt and killed. Why do you think that is?" Twilight looked at everyone. "And finally, we can start our lesson." Twilight grabbed a huge metal silver nail and hammered from the open metal case. Pinky didn't want to know what the unicorn was going to use them for. "Twilight, no! No, please, no!" After resting the nail's tip on the inside of one of the flaps of meat, Twilight leaned over and kissed Pinky on the forehead. Then she swung the hammer and hitting its target. The nail pinned down on one of Pinkie Pie's flaps of skin on the table. The nail rested in a hole pre-embedded in the table. Ah! Pinky felt a high concentration of activated pain receptors. Twilight took 2 more and hammered them to pin down the flaps more securely. Pinky let out a high-pitched shriek with each sudden blood-squirting stab into the meat and flesh. Taking 3 more nails, she did the same to the flaps on the pink pony's other side. This left Pinky's ribcage and bottom organs exposed. Rarity felt nauseous, but Twilight was unfinished. She took out a small circular saw out of the box. It was a bone cutter. She turned it on and pushed the spinning blade into the bottom of Pinky's blood-covered sternum. The loud cutting noise could be heard throughout the dungeon, sawing straight through the hard chest bone. Countless red drops spray onto Pinky's tear-soaked face and onto Twilight's white surgeon apron and mask. The crying and begging and the pleading of the purple unicorn to stop from the 4 other ponies were relentless. Applejack pleaded, anything at all, name it, we'll do it, please just stop this. Dash implored, no more, no. Rarity shouted, we love you, Pinky. We'll get you out of this, we swear. Fluttershy was, of course, crying the hardest. Pinkie Pie is your friend. How could you do this to poor Pinky? Please put her back together. But they didn't seem to face Twilight at all, except for her horn, which looked as if though it sharpened. With Pinky's sternum split, the surgeon unicorn inserted a rib spreader into the crevice and turned the lever enough to push the 2 half sternums apart, leaving Pinky's beating heart and expanding and compressing lungs in plain sight. Pinky was too frightened to look. Twi locked the lever in place. Next, she brought out what looked like a huge blasting bulb and explained, see this? It contains alcohol. I'm going to pour it all over your exposed internal organs to prevent infection. You don't expect me to experiment on infected organs, do you? This is going to sting. A lot. Brace yourself. No, Twi, no. Pinky spoke weakly from blood loss, her face wet with blood and tears, as if Twilight didn't even hear her at all. She squirted the infernal fluid all over poor Pinkie Pie's bare insides. Sting. The pain was so intense, it was like she had ever suffered before. Deafening, blood-curdling screams of sheer agony echoed off the cave walls. This is not right, cried the suffering mare. Twilight repeatedly rubbed her cheeks against her sobbing victims and gave some kisses in between. Shh, 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 shh. It's okay. It's going to be all right. The 4 other captives were in such trauma they couldn't stand seeing their best friend in so much pain. Pinky looked so weak and helpless. It was too much for them to handle. Fluttershy threw up and blacked out. Twilight removed her mask. Now, this is where we learn more about Pinky's mentality. She floated an internal feather and scrolled to herself. Twilight put her face right up to Pinky's. Hey, Pinkie Pie. Pinky weakly glanced at her captor. Miss Sparkle's eyes went wide as she spoke with a big, happy smile. Guess what? I killed Apple Bloom. I killed her, and I'm going to kill you too. It makes me happy. Your cutie mark does not lie. Your parties do give pony smiles, and what a party this is. Tell me, how does this make you feel emotionally? Does this change your view on this world we live in? The unicorn waited for a response from the miserable pink pony. After a few moments, the crying, pitiful pony started to sing. Giggle at the ghosty, go off at the grossly, crack up at the creepy, whoop it up with the weeping, cordy at the knocky, snortle at the spooky, hi. When she finished, Twilight spoke with intrigue. Interesting. You truly are the carrier of the element of laughter. But laughing can only help you so far in dire situations like this. And you need to learn that. Twilight's irises fluctuated between dark red and bright red. She picked up the bone cutter. She started sawing around one of Pinky's hind legs, just above the knee. Pinky screamed from the painful slicing of her muscle. She felt like she could do nothing to stop this, even laughing. More blood splattered. The spinning blade cut the bone thin enough to snap. With exactly what Twilight did, and the pink leg fell to a giant tree trunk floor, making another mess of blood. Twilight Sparkle squirted more stinging alcohol onto the newly made injury. The severed leg, putting the red dripping limb onto a tray from the cart. She asked, "Do you still think giggling at ghosties will save you now, Pink?" Pinky gave up hope. No. Twilight addressed everyone, making sure they were all listening. That's it. We all learned something about our friend Pinkie Pie, and that is that. Under such horrific circumstances like this, she concludes that laughter will not always make the monsters disappear. But we are not done. There is much more to learn about Pinkie Pie. When she was finished, she put back on her surgical mask, readied the glass containers, then sterilized her hooves. The ponies made one last attempt to reason with the heartless horse. Applejack cried first. "Why? You don't have to do this. It's not too late. Just stitch Pinky back up." Dash spoke. "Yes, why? She's your friend." "We know you really don't want to do this." Rarity was next. "We don't know what has gotten into you, but please let us help you. We can help. We love you, dear." Twilight was grateful for your offer. "Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much. You are my dear friends." There was a spark of hope in them. Twilight's eyes even turned brighter red than before. "But there is nothing wrong with me. Everyone heard the thing." Then came the begging and sobbing. Twilight didn't seem to care as she opened the bottle and grabbed the party pony's side. Pinkie Pie felt sick to her stomach. That is until Twilight gave it a good yank out of her, carrying with it a part of the esophagus. Yeah. Twilight eagerly took a drink with her fortune into the preservative fluid-filled jar and closed the lid. Twilight made a discovery. "Well, you had a big stomach, which is to be expected since you ate a lot of goods." Twilight went for her liver next. "This organ is rich with blood." Twilight received the pancreas, gallbladder, spleen, the small intestine. Giving brief facts about them as she did, Maris could not believe nor understand what they were written. Twilight sparkled. A very close to the event. Seemingly out of her body and the floor. At this point, they felt that all hope was lost for their pink friend. They felt so sad. They loved Pinky so much. Interesting in love. Pinky is so healthy, and she's considering how many sweets she yeah. I'm guessing. After giving Pinky's vulva a few good rubs, she used a scalpel to pierce the skin of the lying pony's groin. Pinky could feel the very sharp tool easily dig deeper into her meat. The determined surgeon started carving out Pinky's sensitive. Okay, I'm gonna put up a pause right there. I know I'm gonna probably put a disclaimer before the video, but yeah. Let's just say that, Twilight basically cut out. Yeah, let's just say that Twilight cut out Pinky's. Let's just say that Twilight cut out Pinky's privates. Let's just say that. She just gutted her. Let's just say that Pinkie Pie just gutted her up like a fish. Yeah, just pretty much like that. Sorry if I had to interrupt this fanfic reading a bit early because, well, on one hand, I really don't want to get in trouble with YouTube because of this. So, yeah. That's basically why. Oh, boy. But yeah, let's continue the rest of the stuff. Skipping to the part where where most of it. Basically, I'm just going to go ahead and shorten most of the fanfic because it's basically just all about, gutting and, slashing and gutting Pinkie Pie now. So we're just going to go ahead and straight up say, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and skip and, read some paragraphs of this chapter so that way you can give a brief description of, what Twilight is doing to Pinky. So yeah, Pinky is cutting up. After Pinkie Pie, after Twilight cut up Pinky's privates, with her saying reproduction very important, Twilight poured alcohol onto Pinky's disembodied marehood. Yep, that's basically what I was trying to say. Then Twilight start to work up towards what appear to be of Pinky's lungs. I'll remove your lungs and heart after, so you can witness the lecture of your brain before I take it out. Sad, confusing crying, and a tremendous discomfort. Pinky lost the will to hope. She was just waiting for it to end. A sharp, painful pinching sensation was felt as the scalpel cut across the small pink horse's forehead around the cranium. And sure enough, Pinky braced herself as Twilight squirted more alcohol as she cut out and pulled her brain, Twilight caressing it with her hoof. Even that was not helping. Then the purple unicorn applied her magic to levitate a kind of brainwave analyzing the device to her. She put it up to Pinky's head. Isn't this interesting? The left temporal lobe is just as active as the right. I expected the left side to be far less active. Would you ever forgive me for taking you to be a moron, Pinky? Hehehe. Pinky was too weak, in too much agony to be mad, or even care about the cold words escaping from her tormentor's mouth, and thus concludes the learning of Pinky. Twilight took hold of one of the lungs. Streams of tears peripherally flowed down from Dash's eyes. This, Nif, isn't the Twilight Sparkle we knew. Twilight hesitated for a moment, then pulled out the lung until disconnected from Pinkie Pie. Everyone cried even harder. Pinkie already struggled to breathe. The no's and pleas reverberated throughout the basement laboratory. Twilight placed both of her hooves on the long lung Pinkie had left. Twilight hesitated. She started sweating and breathing heavily. She used her magic to levitate her fizzing liquid filled laboratory flask up onto her mouth. She took a chug of it, then forced out the last means Pinkie had to breathe. Within about 4 minutes, Pinkie passed out from lack of exhaustion. They knew it. Her friends knew that in a few moments of the inevitable would happen to the blood-covered pony. After a short passing time, they saw the beating of Pinkie Pie's visible heart stopped. Her eyes slowly closed. The brain activity ceased. They so desperately did not want to face the ugly fact, but they had no choice. Their friend Pinkie Pie was dead. Everyone felt so empty, but Twilight wasn't done. She immediately started to work towards Applejack, and immediately started inserting a needle. And basically, with great she inserted rods of specific lengths in specific areas in AJ's body with specific angles with great precision. So many inserted rods were covering the orange pony. She didn't bleed a lot though, because the tips of the rods were extremely sharpened. The twisted scientist sat behind the panel of buttons. She magically uncuffed Applejack. Applejack fell to the floor, then she stood up in disbelief. Was she free? Though thoughts were racing through her head of what move she could make. She quickly tried to set her friends free. Everyone was grateful for another chance to get out of this living hell. She tried opening the cuffs. It did not work. She attempted to pull them out of the cuffs, but they were too firmly in place. She lunged at Twilight. Set them free, or you will AJ suddenly lost control of her body. She felt like the bulbs on the needles in her were standing jolts of electricity through her muscles. Then she noticed Twilight's horn radiating light, causing a lot of buttons and dials to be pushed and turned on the central board. Twilight gave the confirmation. Yep, I now control almost every muscle in your body, responsible for voluntary movement. Rainbow and Rarity feared for their friend. What did Twilight have in store for Applejack? Ha 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 ha, hoo hoo, ha ha, hee hoo. Now do you see the funny side? Twilight said as she forced a smile on Applejack's face. Twilight's mouth then restrained its usual form. I'm only fooling around with ya. Anyway, enough tomfoolery. Let us move on to lesson 0. Your lesson. Your 2. Twilight had her puppet walk into a back room. AJ tried to fight it, but it was futile. She was pushing a heavy bulk of machinery back into the main room. It had a square metal platform with poles shooting out straight up from one of its sides, supporting an incidental square metal platform lined up precisely and straight up above from the bottom metal plate. And there was a meter measuring weight in newtons. At the very moment of the top of the pole, Twilight, a small controller that was connected to the bottom of the pole via electric cord. Twilight had Applejack stand on her two hind legs on the platform, with the other platform above her, and elaborated. Our next subject is Applejack, who had apples for a cutie mark. And sure enough, Twilight started to begin her work on Applejack. Rainbow and Rarity did not expect this from Applejack. We know you can fight it, Rarity said. Don't let that jerk take control over you. Show her who's boss. Rainbow Dash cheered AJ on. 3 newtons were no problem. Very good. You were stronger than I thought, the experimenter mocked. Then she went from 445 newtons to 574. And then she turned up the dial to 671. Then 712. 756. 8101. 801 and then 885. Marked. Applejack's muscles were beginning to invisibly sore. Very, very tired and such. She wanted to just lie down on the floor and rest so badly, but that wasn't going to happen. Then it went from 934, 979, 1023, 1103, 1134, 1183. Applejack could hear the bones in her spine crack. Twilight wrote down on a skull the weight at which AJ's skeleton started to break. Then she kept going. 1201, 1245, 1289. Applejack was hurting greatly as her bones further broke under such pressure. But Twilight turned the knob a little further until it reached 1339 and snap! Applejack's back broke in two. She fell to the floor, only to have the top plate smash into her face, break her nose. Screams of pain were muffled by the crushing metal surface. Her skull bone, as well as her rib cage, cracked in several areas. The unicorn wrote down the force at which her spine broke in two. 1339 and done. I wonder. You should be proud of yourself, Applejack. Applejack could barely hear the scientist speak. You contributed your life to science. I know I'm proud of you. And the same fate that happened to Pinkie Pie happened to Applejack. Applejack, the carrier of the element of honesty, was dead. Chapter 5. Fluttershy was still unconscious. Rainbow Dash and Rarity were crying even harder. Their bodies were aching with the pain from their psychological trauma alone. This is a nightmare. I'm just having another horrible realistic nightmare, Rainbow Dash screamed. And sure enough, she knew all too well she was next. Now, this is where truly interesting experiments commence, Twilight said, holding the needle closer to Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash, you are the best flyer in Equestria, are you not? Rainbow Dash just stared. Twilight gave Dashy a slap. Are you? Dash spat onto Twilight's unamused face. Twilight gave her a harder smack. Then she punched her harder in the nose and mouth. Come on. Give me an answer. Rainbow's mouth and nose bleed. Yes, it's true. Then you must be physically fit. I'm amazed you were never a Wonderbolt. Seriously, why wouldn't the Wonderbolts accept you as one of them? They knew you were the very best flyer in their skies. It makes no sense. Tell me, are you in season? And I swear, I will inflict so much more pain onto you than before if you do not answer truthfully. Rainbow Dash did not know where the mayor was going with this. She did not know what to say. Would it help further along her sick experiments if she gave her the information? The interrogating pony just sighed. Never mind, it matters not. She stuck the hypodermic needle into Rainbow's main pony ovaries. Yeah. Let's just say that Twilight, sorry, another break, but let's just say that Twilight basically stabbed Rainbow Dash right in the ass. That's just, yeah, just right in the ass. Yep. Oh man. And this is one of the reasons why my channel is not for men. And this is another one of the reasons why my my channel is not meant for kids. Yep. Then, anyways, back to the story. Twilight kept stabbing into Rainbow Dash's marehood. And then she said, I'm going to genetically engineer some beautiful offspring of yours, Dashy. They'll be just as, or hopeful, more athletic than you. I've already extracted sperm from Soren. He really liked that. It's like they will be both of your children, orphaned children. Rainbow Dash realized the implications of what she just told her. You've killed Soren! How many other ponies did you kill? Twilight happily replied. I prefer to say ponies if I experimented on. Let's say there's Lyra, when I exposed her to high doses of radiation. I started with smaller doses, kind of silly, but I wanted to see if she would mutate. She did not quite. So I exposed her to more. It didn't turn out exactly as I hoped. With Snails, I don't remember what I did with him. The next one is embarrassing. Get this. I removed all of the mayor's organs and bones. Then I tried to take various body parts and organs from several other ponies, putting them all together with the mayor's brain to make a pony of my own creation with the mayor's unconsciousness. The poor composite body wouldn't budge. The two shakenly pony prisoners were struggling to cope with the realization of what a sickening reality this was. They were sick to their stomachs. The experiments were not confined to ponies. I kidnapped Sakura, infected her with all sorts of diseases, tested out some experimental antidotes I invented. Some worked, but others did not. It did not end well for her. And then they're getting off the atomic. And then she kept going. And various other wildlife I have taken to do some genetic experimentation on them. I have some of the resulting life forms floating in fluid-filled tanks. And getting off topic here, I killed the diamond dogs because they were a menace to society. But enough of me babbling, you get the picture. She put away the syringe, only to take out several more that were bigger in size. Hypodermic needles were long enough in length and were intimidating. Twilight enjoyed herself as she inflicts pain onto throughout Rainbow Dash's body. Then she fed off the warmth of Rainbow's brain activity as she put her forehead to Rainbow's head. Dash, I really must get to know more about you. I must get inside your head. How was I going to do this again? Twilight remembered. She put some sort of an electronic helmet on Rainbow Dash's head, strapped it down tight. The helmet had wires coming out of it, connecting to one of the machines on the side wall. The machine monitored was showing the rainbow pony brainwave patterns. Twilight held out one of the syringes and had the shaking pony get a nice long look at it. After the mental torment, she injected Dash with a menacing look substances. She sat down on the floor like a dog, 2.5 meters away from in front of Dash, waiting for the hormone to take effect with an eager, exciting, smiling face. Pretty soon, Dash felt a way she had never felt before. She felt naked, bared, exposed, and ashamed of it. She had an urge to cover a certain body part of hers that was showing, but she couldn't. Her hooves were held down, firm on her metal board. Twilight noticed a change in the brainwave patterns of Dash's distressed mind displayed on the monitor. It appears to be working. Rainbow Dash, she smirked. Put some clothes on. This had Rainbow pay more attention to her nakedness. She let out a whine, trying to cross her legs. She felt so uncomfortable. Trying to tolerate the sight of her gruesome remains of her two friends. Rarity glanced over to Twilight, Sparkle, and Rainbow Dash, trying to figure out what's happening to Dashy. What did you do to Rainbow? What did that shot do to you, Rainbow? I'm not sure, her friend replied. I just don't want anyone seeing my other half, my lower half. Twilight wrote Dashy's words down on paper, then jotted down personal features of Rainbow Dash, showing them to her. Now Rainbow's shame was rivaling her trauma. The excited doctor grabbed hold of the next syringe. Man, this is going to be awesome. She gave another shot while singing, just flowing into your bloodstream, la 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 la. After a minute or so, the Pegasus in torment began to hear a faint, static noise. It steadily grew in volume, until it started to fluctuate in volume. It was soon accompanied by guitar screams, then squeals of random durations, pitch and volume fluctuations, and rates of these fluctuations. It was absolutely chaotic and maddening. The room of death they were in began to distort. The lengths and depths of things were exaggerated. Some dimensions of objects seemed shorter, and other dimensions appeared longer. Some areas of the lab walls moved closer to the Pegasus, while others moved away. To Rarity, it was just a cyan-winged horse sweating, shaking, starting into space with a shocked and confused look. Dash? Dash spoke. Stop it, Twilight! Just stop it! I don't want to hear your mocking words. You're not. But how can you talk to me if you are dead? What's that? Is it how to escape? Twilight happily watched. Rainbow and Rarity was very confused and very concerned. Rainbow Dash, who are you speaking to? Rainbow Dash yelled, as if it was defending herself from an attack. Quiet. Let my dead relative speak. He says it's important. Her eyes watered. I know they're there, sob. Yes, they are. See for yourself. They're all alive. They're alive because the simple fact that they are there. Yes. Does this kind of make sense? Yes, of course it does. Why does it make sense? And that means yes. Oh, Pinkie Pie, Applejack. Dash cried tears of joy. I thought we've lost you. Ha! In your face, Twilight Jerky. Twilight shocked that Dash said this, but thought maybe it was her way of coping their loss. I know, Dash. I want them back too. But Rarity started to cry again. Now how to get us out of there? Here, Twilight, you scum. Release us at once. Twilight snickered at Rainbow as she recorded Dash's words and behavior. As you wish. The cuffs of Dash Dash's and Table's table glowed and opened, releasing the Pegasus. Would they escape this time? No, they couldn't. Twilight wouldn't let them. She wouldn't let Applejack set them free. When she was out of those cuffs, Dash immediately bolted towards Twilight Sparkle, delivered a devastating blow to her head. Dash's victim fell to the floor, giving a huge teeth-baring grin. Upon seeing this, Rarity thought that maybe they did have another chance to be delivered. Dash seemed to have full control of her body. Has Twilight just made a blunder? Was it out of insanity or stupidity? No, she has something up her sleeve. Dash pinned the grinning unicorn to the ground. Let Rarity and Fluttershy go! But they are free. They are breathing, are they not? Humoured Twilight, taking out the nails that pinned down Pinky's flesh to the metal table, out to the pre-made holes with magic. You can't trick me! Breathing is not the reason they are free. Their heart is beating. Rainbow quickly came to the dead Pinkie Pie and gave her a hug. I'm so happy you're alive. Rarity knew that Rainbow Dash actually believed that Pinkie and AJ were not dead. The deluded Pegasus went to AJ. Come on, y'all. Let's get the hay out of here. Sugar cubes. We'll report this to the purple vermin to the authorities. Dash had lifted off the square metal plate off from one of the top of the former farmer pony. The device was free. It was off. She picked up the body and flew towards the stairs. The wires from her helmet connecting to the machine that was against the wall, however, prevented her from leaving. The cords were very strong and firmly embedded into the machine, and her electronic headwear, which was securing strapped around her head, just as Twilight planned. Why ain't you leaving? You're too traumatized the events that took place this night, at me? Help ya? Rainbow Dash threw AJ's dead body down, landing on top of Fluttershy. The impact didn't wake up the yellow Pegasus, though. It in fact put into a deeper state of unconsciousness. The reason for this is quite unknown. Rainbow Dash, Rarity had no idea what to think. Did this shot do this to her? No, really, replied Twilight. A lesson will be learned from this. Rarity tried knocking sense into Rainbow Dash. Rainbow, Applejack, Swallows, is dead. Don't throw her like this. She's a rag doll. And don't hug Pinkie Pie. She has no organs. She felt nauseous again. She's dead as well. It was the shot that is making you believe they're alive. But listen to me. They're dead. Rarity cried at her own words. Dash gave Pinkie Pie an embracing squeeze, staining her coat red. You need help too. Wild One, go help Rarity. Holding the dripping dead pony over her shoulders, she carried it over to Rarity and had it leaned up against the white unicorn. She's alive, Rarity! Alive! Rarity's eyes widened as she was forced to stare straight down into the pony's cold, lifeless eyes. Pinkie Pie's blood-covered corpse, with no internal organs or top section of her cranium, lying right on her, causing her to quiver uncontrollably. She felt the warm, fresh blood from the mutilated Pinkie flow down her shivering body. She just could not hold the puke. The acidic stomach fluid splashed onto the emotionless face of the deceased pony. Then it oozed down both their bodies. Rarity was struggling to breathe. Oh, Dash, snap out of it! Do something! She coughed and wheezed. Dash looked baffled. Why aren't any of you leaving? Pinkie Pie picked up Pinkie's body from Rarity and shook it violently. Blood and vomit splattered off on the surrounding floors. Yeah, silly. Let's go for a party. I'm serving multicolored cupcakes with raspberry frosting and grape-flavored sprinkles. Rarity knew that her Pegasus friend has officially gone completely mad. But nothing compared for what happened next. After laying the body on the floor, Rainbow Dash sat down next to it, sinking her teeth into one of the front legs and tore it off, a huge mess of Pinkie's raw red muscle. Free samples, Dash said, gnawing on one piece of the skeletal muscle, while the blood was dripping down from her mouth. In a few moments of great solicitude, Rarity loudly vociferated, while shaking the twitching with the force she strained various tendons in her body. After chewing and swallowing about 1/3 of the piece of Pinkie that she ripped out, the Psycho Pegasus dropped to the floor and took another healthy bite out of the leg. She forcefully pulled another chunk from the front leg, taking with it strands of muscle that peeled off like a string of cheese. She ate through half of it before letting it fall to the ground, then bit again, with another messy red teeth. Rarity couldn't dare to watch any more of this. Rainbow Dash, stop it! Stop it! But that did not help, and stopped her mentally sick friend. The insane pony just kept biting off and munching on her helplings of Pinkie Pie, like if she was eating a chicken leg. Don't fret. I'll transport you outside soon, Rarity. Oh, why must I feel this way? Dash hid her special part under her pink corpse as to keep it out of sight. Meanwhile, Twilight was very entertained. Plus, she really felt like a scientist. She was so excited she could have loved to be more directly involved in the experiment, but she had to take notes. After 20 minutes of agonizing minutes of the pony cannibalism, Dash has stripped Pinkie's front leg of nearly all its brawn, then went from exposed for the exposed radius. Twilight realizes, no, don't damage the bone. She went over to the machine that the cords coming from the helmet on Dash's head were hooked up to. She pressed the button on the apparatus, and the wires contracted into the mechanism like a cord from the vacuum cleaner. This pulled the cannibal towards the machine, restraining her from ruining the leg part of the skeleton. She now had much smaller range to move around. Sorry, Rainbow Dash, but I want to have a skeletal model of Pinkie Pie. Say, I do believe we are done with this session. What have we discovered, you ask? We discovered that, under her current state of mind, this is how Rainbow Dash manifests her loyalty to her friends. Just look at how desperate she is to free you all. Such as by transporting Pinkie Pie out of this place onward. The restricted Cyan Pegasus tried desperately to break free. She was pulling hard on the strap from her electronic headgear, but she could not break free. She was like a vicious dog, held by a tied leash. I need to let my friends know I love them. Why won't the noise stop? Rainbow Dash kept struggling, but after a few minutes, she sat on the ground, shaking in a fetal position, out of shame and fear. She was wearing a scary grimace. She was sweating so much she looked like she went babbling for apples. Her eyes were wide. Her pupils were small. Her eyes looked around like crazy. Then for a few moments she was looking as if she were thinking hard about something. Meanwhile, Twilight Sparkle had a few sips of her hot orangey green drink from her glassware and was about to prepare for Fluttershy. She was stopped, however, by the sound of something ripping and a muffled scream, followed by a sensation being hit by a soft, wet, squishy object on her side. The object fell to the floor, making a splat sound. Like a drop gravy-covered scoop of mashed potatoes, she turned around to see what caused this. She saw that Rainbow Dash had a huge, deep gash in her right leg, with a lot of blood rushing out of it. Oh, I suppose we're not done. Wow, that drug is having a lot more effect on you than I predicted, Twilight said while she readied her pen and paper. Rainbow Dash was in tears as her mouth grabbed its second smooth piece of her outmost organ. I must break free. She stretched it to see if stretch it to its breaking point. It's necessary. Transporting myself out of here. She noticed that the purple unicorn was observing her. She spat that bit out of herself, of her blood-dripping mouth. Stop looking at me! You're looking at my vulva, aren't you? She cried. She took an even bigger mass of her own throbbing leg and released her loudest scream yet, at the same time crying more tears, burning pain. Twilight gave a giggle as she continued jolting down what she saw. We will see who will come out on top. I'm breaking free as well. As I speak, Dash continued, while pointing to the area where she was throwing herself to, bit by bit. See, even now I am slowly moving towards the spot and out of these chains. I've took enough notes. I'll let the machine continue recording the brain activity through Dash's helmet. Analyze her data later. Now we may move on. Oh joy. The doctor went back to retrieve a cart with a tray. The tray had tools. Hidden under a cloth, there were also alcohol-filled blasting bulbs, bottles of water. Twilight gave Fluttershy a few slaps. Yoo-hoo! Time for wakey, sweetie. You can do this. The Pegasus did not respond. Twilight gave her a gentle hug, then moved to Plan B. It was dark and black. She was unaware of anything, asleep suddenly. It was cold and wet. Something was dripping down her body. It woke her up just a little. Then she remembered. No, that didn't really happen. Of course not. It couldn't have. It's just a false memory, a dream. She heard the voice. Fluttershy, come on, Flutters. The voice accompanied by the sounds of misery. No. It's not true. I refuse to believe it. But what could she suggested otherwise? Fluttershy, we can't start this if you are not awake. The voice sounded clearer to her now. Fluttershy slowly opened her eyes, then they widened with terror at most. Her worst fears were confirmed. Pinkie Pie was dead on the floor, cut open and empty. Next to her, a pile of her own meat fragments, with a large puddle of blood under her. Then there was Rainbow Dash. One of her hind legs was almost completely bone, and the other was being ripped apart by its owner's jaw. The pieces were being thrown and a pile of 2 meters away from the sobbing cyan Pegasus. Though hornless, Rarity was otherwise untouched. Fluttershy's shining eyes watered at the sight of her friends like this. No! Fluttershy. Twilight dumped more cold water on Fluttershy, who immediately acted immediately as Fluttershy was about to begin to pass out again. The bound Pegasus began to cry. I know it's hard, but I'm here for you, Fluttershy. Fluttershy only cried harder, and not understanding why Twilight was saying this. Hey, I know what will make you feel better. I brought a friend. Twilight had a tied-up angel hovered over to them from the back room. Gasp! You let Angel go! But the demented unicorn gave the same impossible wide smile as before in return. Fluttershy was taken back. Oh, Fluttershy, I was just teasing. Guess whose turn it is for experimentation? Fluttershy was pounding like a jackhammer. Fluttershy represents the element of kindness. Her cutie mark shows 3 butterflies. That is saying that she's kind to animals in the wild, tending to their needs. Do we all acknowledge this, Rainbow? I'm nearly done with my back legs. Soon I will walk, Josh said, throwing the severed leg bones into the pile. I'm so happy for you, Rarity. Rarity said not a word. She merely hung her head low, letting out a constant quiet wails and whining, not sure how else to cope with the trauma and what else transpiring that night. Great. The magic unicorn made a chef's knife materialize and held it 1 hoof. Fluttershy almost let panic get the best of her, but she regained enough composure to give Twilight the stare. Don't you hurt him! Let him go, now, if you know what it's good for you. With a sudden movement, Twilight held up the knife right into Fluttershy's terrified face. I won't hurt him. Would you hurt Angel? Just a stab. A stab into the heart will do. For me, please. What? I could never harm another creature except you with such emotion. The yellow Pegasus threw the large kitchen knife towards Twilight. It grazed her left side. The sharpened horned mare picked up the knife and gave herself a horizontal gash across the forehead, wearing a big smile. You're funny, she bounded Fluttershy's right hoof. Putting the bunny aside, she took a hold of the kitchen knife and gently ran it across the yellow Pegasus' left cheek. Do you know what I'm going to do to you if you don't kill your bunny friend? I would rather die than kill a poor helpless creature. I know you would. That's why I'm going to keep you alive. If you won't kill him, then I shall break you until you do. That's the experiment. It will show us your breaking point. It will show us just how kind you really are. Fluttershy saw the evil doctor prepared. The doctor started setting up the implements of torture. Her heart nearly skipped a beat when she saw the display of sharp metal blades, syringes, and blasting bulbs, and a few other menacing objects, all neatly organized in a silver tray. I know how sensitive you are. I don't expect that it will take much. All this can be avoided if you just kill Angel. Then I promise you a quick, painless demise. Fluttershy just stared at the instruments and then lay on the tray. Then she looked at the frightened Angel. Never. Very well, Twilight Sparkle said, as she took a sip more of her favorite drink. Then she used her magic to turn on a record player. It played a lovely waltz tune with the Temple of Adrenaline. Shall we dance? She grabbed the scalpel Then she starts cutting up Fluttershy's flank, where her cutie mark is. Ouch! The pain increased as Twilight dug the scalpel deeper into her backside. Fluttershy gnashed at her teeth, trying to hold in tears as Fluttershy carved a large symbol into her. The warm blood flew out from her hurting flank. When the unicorn was done, she moved to the left side and carved out the same unknown symbol while whistling to the music. Next, a basting bulb was used to squirt alcohol onto both of the newly obtained cutie marks. Twilight heard Fluttershy shrieked from the high stinging sensation. "You're crying already, and this is just the start. You're sensitive indeed. Would you like to stop the pain before it gets too much?" "Ha! This is nothing." "Suit yourself." Twilight gripped an apple peeler, pressing it against the yellow left hind leg, and started to peel away. Her victim screamed and cried. Fluttershy pulled the peeler back down on the tray, as her leg was now strips of long, sticky strips of her skin, stripped and sliced. And her leg was almost a shiny, dark and red color, with red streams flowing down from it. "Whenever you are ready, Fluttershy, just let me know." Fluttershy was showing an expression of great pain. Her face still held a look of determination. Twilight had both ears fall into... Twilight used her magic to start cutting down on Fluttershy's ears. Now her ears were steadily being cut off with her knife. Twilight had both ears fall into her free hoof. She looked at Rainbow Dash, who was drenched in her own blood and vomit, with no hind legs, with barely a left front leg. "Hey Rainbow, you hungry?" Twilight threw both ears towards the bloody Pegasus, hitting her in the face, then the ground. Rainbow Dash was very weak. "I won't accept your help, she said right before collapsing on the floor. Twilight was listening to the waltz that was playing. "It's been a while since I heard this tune. I've forgotten how great it is." She turned back to Fluttershy. She accidentally tripped over one of her dancing hooves and fell onto Fluttershy, stabbing her into her right eye with the knife she was holding. Fluttershy naturally screamed from the sudden pain, with her eye split. The squirted out blood into Twilight's face. Twilight quickly pulled the knife out. "Oh no, I'm sorry, Fluttershy. I didn't mean to stab you there. Are you alright?" Poor Rarity tensed up more greatly and loudly wept over hearing another loud expression from the agonizing scream of her friends. From one of her dear friends. "Okay, I got it this time." Twilight Sparkle applied pressure onto Fluttershy's nose with the knife's sharp edge, rapidly moving up and down repeatedly. Blood oozed out at the nose, slowly being severed. "Dashy, here, girl!" She threw the body part at Rainbow Dash. When it hit her, she gave her an acknowledgement. Soon after, the torn Pegasus fell unconscious. "Oh, I almost forgot!" Twilight squirted the alcohol on Fluttershy's left leg, her right eye, and then where her ears and nose used to be. Fluttershy begged, "Please," cried, and please, just let Angel go. "Isn't there any other way to do this experiment?" Fluttershy was surprised. "Wow, you really are selfless. You still care about Angel more than yourself, even when you're being tortured?" "This is gonna be longer than I first imagined it to be." Twilight held up a horseshoe to Fluttershy's left hind leg's hoof. She retrieved the hammer and one nails with her hooves. The nails' tips was placed into the holes of the horseshoe. Fluttershy heard a whooshing noise through the air. With a loud thud, the nail budged a little into her hoof. The impact sent a painful vibration through Fluttershy's injured left hind leg. She could tell that the nail wasn't very sharp, because Twilight had repeatedly swung the hammer forcefully to make any progress, the intense rapid pounding sending violent shockwaves down to Fluttershy's partially skinned leg. It burned through her with such unbearable torment. She sang a song of screams and wails that sounded throughout the whole cave. It worsened once the 15-centimeter nail finally hit a nerve. The nail was still wet with alcohol, which was added to the pain. After the nail was finally as deep into the leg's hoof as it could be, Fluttershy's tormentor placed another long nail into a second hole of the horseshoe, and it hammered. Fluttershy lost all signs of confidence. She feared the worst for Angel. Would she give in to the torture and kill the poor terrified rabbit to relieve her of her turmoil? Was it a matter of it she would cave in, or was it a matter of when she would cave in? As these questions ran through her head, Twilight readied for the third nail. When about the half of the nail was in the hoof and leg, Twilight was swaying her body back and forth to the music until she couldn't stand it anymore. I'm sorry, Fluttershy, but I have not heard this music in a long time. This is my favorite part. I cannot control myself any longer. I've got to dance somehow. Meanwhile, Fluttershy was laying on the metal table, ready to suffer. Already suffering. Rarity watched in disgust at what Twilight did with the corpse. She looked at Rainbow Dash, who was lying on the ground, covered in red, with no leg, who was probably on the verge of dying. She then glanced at Fluttershy, seeing her lying there on the table, helpless. Fluttershy glanced back. Rarity could see the sadness in her eyes. Fluttershy, I love you. The Pegasus managed a weak smile as a sign of acknowledgement and appreciation. Listen, I think you should kill Angel. The yellow pony looked surprised. I know it sounds terrible, but I don't see any of us making out of here alive. You may as well relieve yourself of this suffering. Please, I don't want to see you like this anymore. Just a quick stab in the heart. Angel won't feel any pain for long. Not like you are. Fluttershy understood what the white unicorn friend was saying, but she was still appalled by the idea of killing an innocent life. Twilight overheard Rarity shouting. She stopped dancing and turned off the music. Hey, Rarity, stop influencing Fluttershy's decision. How about you stop torturing Fluttershy and just let us go? Please, we can just leave. No, can't, no can do. If I did, then what use would you serve in better understanding? Just let us go, for the goodness sake. You're sick. You're sick. Why would you see that? Why won't you see that? This is not right what you're doing to us. Let us go, and we can set things right. We'll get you help. Then things can get back to the way. Rarity choked. She knew things could never get back to the way it was before. Not after what already took place. Rarity just stared at Rarity. Twilight just stared at Rarity blankly. Then the blank stare slowly turned into a soft smile. With her eyes half shut, she slowly walked towards Rarity, still with that smile. Rarity breathed heavily as Twilight caressed her belly with a sharp horn. The horn went dull, as it moved down Rarity's belly. As if not to risk harming her. I love your energetic mentality, Twilight said. Then it entered it. Then Rarity. Then sure enough, Twilight started stabbing right into Rarity. Oh boy. Yep, this... Oh man. I'm gonna start questioning myself when making this video. Why am I ever reading this creepypasta? I should have been at least read... Why did I ever think about reading this creepypasta? Have you ever felt... I'm starting to start questioning myself. I'm slowly questioning myself. Why am I reading this type of creepypasta when I could be reading others? Oh boy. So basically this entire story is just... So yeah, this story was very long. I can just say... All I can say is that this story is basically like, you know... Rainbow Dash is dead, Rarity is dead, and Fluttershy is dead. I don't want to, like, you know, spend too much of, like, going through the story, but yeah, it just basically shows that, you know, Twilight going cuckoo crazy, and she killed all of her friends. Twilight, Rarity being killed, and being stabbed to death, Fluttershy being tormented to death, tortured, and Rainbow Dash is basically mentally tortured until she basically killed herself. And it obviously gives us a reference to the Cupcakes fanfic, which I honestly think that this fanfic should have been the good of choice to be used for starting off creepypastas. Now honestly, this story was obviously been written by Schwartz. Man, I'm gonna possibly... Oh man, I'm gonna butcher this story. I'm gonna probably butcher... I think I'm gonna butcher the author's name. I'm really sorry. Schwartz... yeah, that's the name of the author. Honestly, this is basically all types of creepypasta, but this is the type of creepypasta I never expected. So basically, it has a warning that says depictions of rape and of SA being sexual assault and rape. I mean, but I get, like, you know, this type of creepypasta obviously, of course, has graphic gore, you know, stabbing, gutting someone like a fish, basically ripping out their organs, type of stuff that I'm, you know, used to seeing in creepypastas. But what I didn't expect is that one of these creepypastas, of course, having a sexual assault and, of course, rape. Now, I just wanted to explain, like, now, here are my thoughts about the story. First of all, like, I like how, like, you know, they've referenced having Rainbow Dash saying that she has a nightmare of Pinkie Pie trying to cut her up and turn her into cupcakes, giving us a reference to the Cupcakes creepypasta fanfic, which I should have thought about reading instead than reading this. Basically, the fact that how, you know, very long it is and, you know, how long this story is. But I get it makes sense. You gotta have, like, all the chapters to, you know, show, like, all the different ponies that you're trying to torture. So, yeah, basically what this is. But here's the thing that I should have noticed. Like, why is every pony not listening to Rainbow Dash when she's starting to get sensing red flags there? Like, I get it. Like, I get Applejack is trying to be helpful, but, you know, as the element of honesty, she should have known that Rainbow Dash wasn't lying when she's starting to get sensing red flags. I mean, sure, there are times where Applejack is slow at understanding, like, what her friends are going through or what they're about to go through. But, like, this should have been... If I were in the story, I would have been like, okay, yep, nope, this is the moment where I'm just going to get the fuck out of here. Because this is just like, yeah, this is like one of those types of stories that you're just like, yeah. Yeah, pretty much it. And it's just like one of those types of fanfics where it makes you feel like one of these creepypastas is just like, oh, like, you know, oh, look, I just killed more. like, oh look, I just killed Sonic the other day, and then next thing you know, I just killed Knuckles, and then Dr. Eggman, and all those other, uh, all of my other friends, and all that stuff. Like, it's just like basically your type of, torture, but I never expected, I honestly thought that the experiments of Twilight Sparkle would just be about, Twilight just basically committing graphic gore on all of her friends, like basically gutting her friends up and, you know, basically, gutting them up like a fish. But I guess this is more, but I mean, let's face it, this is Twilight Sparkle that we're talking about. I mean, what do you expect from this story if some of you have done read it? So yeah, now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the remake of, well, onto the part that I'm pretty sure that would give some creepypasta gene cleanser with another creepypasta, that being the Rainbow Factory remaster. So sit back and relax. Time for another creepypasta fanfic reading. Now, A Rainbow's Tale isn't quite as nice as the story we know of Sugar and Spice, but there's a long been rumors as to know exactly how rainbows are made in Equestria, where the great amount of Pegasus ponies are employed in the rainbow department of the Weather Factory. Almost all of them due to the low-end work. What's known is that the great streams of spectra, the individual colors of a rainbow, flow through larger grates into vast vats. From there, workers carefully and equally mix the spectra into the coagulated rainbow pools that dotted and run throughout the factory in the surrounding city. Next, the mixture is pumped through the floor below, where the other employees atomize it and store it until the active weather Pegasi deploy it into the field. However, no one knows how the individual spectra is made. Supplies are never been brought in, leaving us not even a clue what goes into a rainbow. Tourists, when visiting the factory, are treated to an extremely forbidding and plain wall with massive solid doors bearing entry to any pony at any time. While most faculties' various signs and architecture is bubbly and welcoming, the Rainbow Factory's upper floors was protected by harsh imagery of potential hazards and death, and the cloud wall was made not out of the clean white of the rest of the city, but of a black, quietly thundering fog. To become an employee of the Upper Rainbow Factory, meant sacrificing any life outside those black walls. Workers are sworn to secrecy and forbidden from leaving, and live inside the faculty itself. Those fewer who ever managed to make it out, not a body bag, were twisted and disturbed, too damaged to even bring themselves to talk about it. A lot of theories were proposed: dark magic from captured unicorns, chemicals and environmental hazards that no sane pony would tolerate. Even thoughts of an unknown sister of Celestia's, destined to create spectra instead of raising the sun or the moon. None of them could be farther than the truth. But a rainbow's easy once you get to know it, with the help of the magic of the Pegasus device. Come on, Orion. We're going to be late for our final test, Scootaloo called to a friend of hers. She was older now her last year of flight school. She, like all the other Pegasus in the school, was terribly nervous about the final test. Those that passed were granted freedom into the world to find their cutie marks if they haven't, and becoming worker ponies. Little is known, or at least thought out about fact, was that What happened to the fillies that failed their tests? Well, uncommon. One or two from every class generally didn't have it in them to perform rigorous acts and maneuvers. Those that failed their tests were looked down upon the worst of ways, shunned and hated. Cloudsdale has always bred a form of nationalism amongst its occupants. If you weren't the best or didn't show the potential of being the greatest, you weren't allowed to be part of the glorious collective. Scootaloo moved a little to the side as Orion, a tall yet fairly skinny pony, settled next to her. He fluffed his light brown feathers and gave a worried attempt at a smile as he stared around where he sat. They were sitting in a large open waiting room, overlooking the Colosseum, with all other graduating Pegasi. Just visible in the distance was the factory. Orion glanced at it and gulped. What's the matter, Orion? Are you afraid of getting a dead-end job on the snow line? Orion chuckled a bit, then closed his eyes and sighed. No, it's just that, I don't know. I don't think I can do this. What if I fail? What if I don't fail? But do just bad enough to be disliked by everyone. I don't know if I can take being deported. Where do we even go anyways? Scootaloo gave Orion a friendly punch. No one knows you dolt. And we're not even going to fail. Everyone here is going to be fine. I know I will at least pass. Thanks to the tips from Rainbow Dash, I'm sure to be fine. Oh yeah, sure, that reassures me. That's actually just as, if not even more reassuring than the psychotic hate from every pony here seems to love to spread. Quick panicking, scaredy wings. The only one here I think even might fail is that yellow pony with the dark green mane. She's the one who was out sick for that month, you know. Oh yeah, Orion remembered as he craned his head in the other pony's direction. The one who had the bad case of hoof and wing. She looks pretty confident though. I suppose. Scootaloo trailed, turning to look at the factory herself. It gave her chills. Not a fear, but pride. I hope I get some cool active weather job. Can you imagine every pony in Ponyville and Philadelphia staring up at me? Going, there goes Scootaloo, such an amazing flyer, and from Cloudsdale. There can be no doubt. She smiled in excitement, forgetting her tension for the moment. That would be something, I'll admit, mind you, just coming from Cloudsdale. Who wouldn't be in awe? Exactly. Praise the flock. Praise the flock. Places, every pony. A massive buff Pegasus walked towards the entrance of the Colosseum. We're going to do this by name. Your objecticators are on the east side of the field. Do not, I repeat, do not fly too far west. If they lose sight of you for any reason, you'll be failed immediately. Taking deep breaths, stretch your wings one last time. The test will consist of 3 sections: weather clearing, agility, and finally recovery. Clear the clouds, fly through the hoops, and then fly to the marked elevation. Close your wings for at least 3 seconds, and at least in any less, and you fail, but keep in mind, there's no extra points for extra seconds. Final recover before you hit the Cloud 4, understood? Any questions? The instructor paused. carefully glanced at every single pony in the room. Everyone's were completely focused on him, and none were seized with confusion. All right, Aurora Dawn, you're up first. Clear, fly, fall, complete. The yellow pony nodded. She walked quickly up to the starting ramp with purpose. She stared at the watching judges, waiting for a nod from all three, and took off with powerful force. The ramp bounced slightly from the force of takeoff. Every pony watched as Aurora quickly reached the starting altitude, then began a direct and powerful and purposeful attack on the positioned clouds. With experts' timing and intelligent angles, the sky was soon empty of any moisture. Scootaloo and Orion watched with open mouths as they watched the first testee pull fast and tight turns, expertly shooting dead center through each and every hoop. Finally, Aurora pulled herself up to the proper altitude, hovered, and closed her wings. The group of students gasped as she starts plummeting down towards the clouds and countlessly breath. 1, 2, 3. They sighed as they watched her wings open in correct amount of time, collectively holding relief. Suddenly, Aurora's wings whipped upwards, and the group of students flinched in horror as they all heard the loud, hollow snap, suddenly to be replaced by an unending pierced scream. Many, like Orion, shielded their eyes with their wings, as others, like Scootaloo, could only watch terrified as the blur of yellow, green, and red plummeted into a cloud with a dull thump. Wasting no time, the instructor walked towards against as the three judges simply pointed down and started shuffling papers around, speaking loudly. As if nothing had happened, he called again. Daisy Fields, clear, fly, fall, complete. Scootaloo and Orion stared slack-jawed as another pony gulped, then walked towards onto the path and took off. They turned back to the tuft of the cloud where Aurora landed and stared as the wind blew the fragments that were thrown up from the collision away. They saw the shivering yellow body attempting to move, only to collapse with a cry. Faraday spots, clear, fly, fall, complete. Aurora still struggled to walk, wailing with every step, her legs broken. She could use them, but it's obvious that the pain from her wing jolts and the loss of potential life was crushing her. Scootaloo felt Orion shuffled, uneasy, tears welling in his eyes as a frown formed on his face. Holiday shine, clear, fly, fall, complete. No one's coming to help her, Orion said through his closed teeth. Scootaloo felt extremely sad for the yellow Pegasus and couldn't see herself helping her. She would be failed herself and sent away, far away from Cloudsdale and any familiar place in Equestria, to a place where she and many other failed students could never stain Cloudsdale's reputation. It was a terrible shame, but Scootaloo could not see herself. She could fail her friends, and she definitely could not fail Rainbow Dash. Not after the care and help she had given her Scootaloo's whole life. Scootaloo blinked the tears from her eyes, forced herself to watch the competing students, one after another, took off, successfully passed the test, and flew to the east gate. Under the judges' spots in the stands, That's all Scootaloo focused on. Pass the test, fly to the gate, live a happy life. Orion Solstice. Clear, fly, fall, complete. No. What? The instructor took a step back, one leg raised in the air. You can't just refuse your flight test. Get out there before you piss off the judges off. No, don't even pretend you care about my future if you don't even care about hers, Orion defied, unsure about himself. You say you want me to get a good life, and yet you let those that fail suffer unbearable pain. Get the fuck out onto the field, on that field, before I fail you myself, the instructor shouted menacingly. Fine, Orion spoke sharply before walking onto the ramp. He stared at the judges, waited for the individual nods. The second they came, he took off. However, long before the starting altitude, he turned sharply and landed gently next to Aurora. She turned and looked at him, blood running down her forehead and sides, and tears streamed down her face. What are you doing? You'll fail like me. You'll be exiled. I'd rather be exiled from a place that treats ponies like this than live my life while others don't live their lives. Aurora smiled, happily briefly, replacing her sadness in her blackened, puffy eyes, until she stumbled again. Intense pain flashed across her body. Orion leaned in close, using his wing to brace the yellow pony against himself. He stirred up the judges, beaming hate with his vision. They stared down, unaffected, and simply pointed down, before looking back towards the ramp for the next contestant. Scootaloo stood shocked, hardly hearing her name called. She moved numbly up the ramp, never taking her eyes off her friend and the pony who sacrificed himself to help. After a brief moment, she shook her head, recovered her thoughts, and looked at the judges. Thoughts passed through her head as she watched them all nod. Oh, Celestia, what do? I can't let everyone I know down, but I'll never see Orion again, I suppose. I hope he knows that the risk when he did that. I'm sure he's thinking the same right now. She glanced at Orion. He wasn't looking at her. She took off, heartbroken, instantly kicked in as familiar rush of wind cooled her, and blew her thoughts away. She stopped at the right altitude and then launched again, sensing and seeing every cloud, formulating a game plan. In a matter of couple of seconds, the sky was clear. She did a quick loop in mid-flight, aiming at the first hoop. With a powerful flash of her wings, she propelled forward through the first ring, and then the second, then the third, expertly turning and drifting. She curved in towards the second last ring, near the bottom of the field. As she descended, she caught sight of Orion and Aurora, almost at the west gate now. Orion turned his head and smiled weakly. Scootaloo focused shattered. Orion knew what he did. He cared about her, he missed her, and he'll never get to say goodbye. Scootaloo cranked into the bottom part of the ring, falling backwards several feet and hitting the ground. With a sudden intense flash of fear, she flipped herself onto her feet and began flapping her wings, levitating off the ground. Maybe that didn't count as failure, she thought. I can still fly. There was a distraction on the field. She spun around the judges, 3 hooves pointed down. Scootaloo started crying there, tears welling up and blurring her vision. This wasn't right. This shouldn't have happened. None of it. Orion should have passed his test and cheered her on from the east gate. She shouldn't have looked at him. She should have focused on flying, but there was no room for excuses. Defeated, she slowly hovered towards Orion and settled down next to him. She looked at him with her purple eyes. He looked back, offering a smile. You did a good job. Scootaloo dropped her head and sobbed. She then walked around Orion, lifted a wing, of her own and helped Aurora walk to the west gate. Before them stood a long, unlit hall with only a cheap sign stuck to the wall, notifying Thespiales to proceed down the hall. They waited only briefly to gather themselves and prepare where they would be taken, and then all stepped forward. Let's delve deeper into rainbow philosophy, far beyond that of Cloudsdale's mythology. It's easy to mistake or misjudge that floating city with its alluring decor and social psychology. Against an empty carriage at the end, the lonely hall were 3 imposing ponies, leaning disinterest and bored-posed. One of them happened to look up at the sorry-looking trio stumbled out into the open. They were on the bottom edge of the Colosseum, with the vast rolling hills and plains of Equestria visible far below. "Hey boss, we got some dim, worthless Pegasus," the first one called to an even bigger pony to the other side of the carriage. "I suppose it's get to work time, is it? Cool it, hotshot. There may be more too." No, I was the last student to go. It's... She paused and breathed deeply, determined to remain as strong as she could. "It's just us 3. Aurora's wings, they're broken. She needs help." "Ain't that just a crying shame? It is. What's it to us? I'll do better if she don't come flying back to us no more." "We may have failed our damned tests, but that doesn't mean we're not worth keeping alive," Scootaloo shouted in a flash of rage. She was determined to hold on to as much dignity as she could. All right, sheesh. Hey, Patches, doctor her up before we head out. I don't want any blood on them seats. I just washed that thing." "You're the 2 in the cart." Orion and Scootaloo hopped in the carriage and got as comfortable as they could on the hard seats, but made sure to leave room for Aurora. As soon as the 3rd of the large ponies finished bandaging her wings, Aurora carefully stepped onto the vehicle and laid on the bench at the back. Scootaloo inched closer to her and leaned down to talk as the door to the carriage slammed shut. The boss pony was inside the back, standing by the door, watching each of them. "So, you're Aurora. I'm Scootaloo. I'm sorry we had to meet like this." "And any meeting of a friend is a welcome meeting. We did our best. That's all we can say. That's all any of us can say." Aurora spoke gently, with sincerity in her eyes. "Who's to say that the city of the deported isn't a good one anyways?" The thought struck Scootaloo as she considered. "No one has ever told about where the Pegasi were brought. Most ponies considered it to be some odd land, like where's the quarter where the zebras were hailed from." That made Scootaloo realize something even more profound. Hey, if we were taken is where Zakor is from, then there's got to be a way back to get back. It's not like as if we were banned from Equestria. Fluttershy, an old friend of mine, she's a Pegasus who lives in Ponyville. She never passed flight school. She never took her test. They've never come and taken her away. Exactly. Aurora agreed with a nod. Orion overheard and offered his thoughts. "I think the reason we're sent far away is because no pony from Cloudsdale ever wants to admit that someone who failed flight school could come from their city. What a fucking horrible place. Now that I think of it, I never want to go back. Maybe that's why no Pegasus ever comes back. They just don't like Cloudsdale. You goddamn worthless ponies can hardly call yourself Pegasus, the boss spoke from the door. He was swaying ever so slightly as the carriage was lifted and moved to an unknown location. Useless failures is what you are. No pony comes back from exile, regardless of reason. Can't even pass your damn test. You three make me fucking sick. Scootaloo jumped from her seat, lifted herself into the air with her wings, dove her legs first at the boss. You shut the hell up about us. You have no right to treat us like this. The boss raised his hoof and backhanded Scootaloo out of the air onto the floor. I could treat you however I want. You hardly classified as ponies to Cloudsdale, or any of Equestria for that matter. Now sit the fuck down and shut up until you get to your destination. Where are we being taken anyways? Not like we can tell anyone. And I'm sure as the deliverers, you guys should have known. Orang cautiously reasoned. Hell if I know. We handed this carriage off to ponies in suits, and we get a bag full of coins to keep quiet about the whole thing. It's how it always been for 1,000 years. The three fillies huddled together, scared of the unknown. They kept quiet as they waited through the unbearable trip, all lost in their own thoughts. Friends, family, loved ones, and pets, all will never see them again, and some would never find out why. An hour passed, and then another. Finally, the uncomfortable quiet was broken by a sudden lurch as the carriage stopped in its flight. Ah, Boss smiled. There's my stop. You ponies play nice. Have fun in whatever hell you're sent to. The carriage door shuffled open. The boss hopped out with a gust of cold wind, and it was dark outside, with hardly any flight to see at all. Scootaloo stared outside and noticed another figure staring in. It was dressed in a black suit, its tail dyed an unnatural black that was never occurred in nature. Its face was covered by a black, loose-fitting mask, concealing its mane. All that was visible were those rose-colored eyes, staring indifferently at the three ponies inside. They stopped on Scootaloo momentarily until unrecognizing, but she stared back. A second passed. The dark pony slammed the door shut. The carriage took off once again. At least we can talk now, Aurora whispered in the dark, but they had nothing to talk about. But with all great things, a great responsibility, with Cloudsdale being weather stability. The three desolate foals blinked their eyes awake, having resolved to conserve their energy for whatever came next. With a loud scraping noise, the door shook, then swung wide open. Several more ponies, obscured by masks and suits, were moving around the area. Scootaloo blinked against the light from which she was seeing. There was a cloud building. As her eyes adjusted, she noticed more details. Several of the blackened ponies were rushing around, some holding clipboards, some carrying briefcases, and others important-looking items on their backs. The complex was full of machinery and signs. Pipes ran along the ceiling, and a low whir ran in the background. Occasionally, joined with the other industrial sounds, such as crashes and alarms. Scootaloo gasped. This place, this architecture, it's all so familiar. I think we're in the weather factory. Orion frowned. That can't be right. We were traveling for way too long. We've got to be far away from Equestrian now, not to mention the city. Actually, Scootaloo may be right, Orion mused. I noticed it was maybe the same amount of time from when we left the Colosseum to the place the carriage driver swapped. That was from the swap place to here. But I don't know if I'm confused. Maybe that's just a coincidence. Welcome, mules, a large and powerful voice commanded. Several of the ponies moved to make their way. A dark-red Pegasus, dressed in a white lab coat. You degenerates are probably wondering where exactly you are. You stupid fillies. You're in Cloudsdale, the Rainbow facility, to be correct. Allow me to show you around. What's going on here? Do you expect to use us as slaves? Because I'd rather be deported, thanks, Scootaloo yelled. Orion and Aurora got off their seats and stood behind Scootaloo, nodding in agreement. Like you failures have a choice. You'll be here for the rest of your lives. Oh, I'm sorry. Where are my manners? I am Dr. Atmosphere. My degree isn't a medical one. I shall reassure you, in case you're picturing some dreadful surgery going on behind the scenes. Strange how so many worthless Pegasi get that idea. No, my degree is in engineering. I'm one of the 4 cults in this facility. I'm sure you all had the tour of the lower factory, no? 3 ponies nodded slowly, unsurely of what's going on. Excellent. Who can tell me where the tour began? Orion spoke up first. Where the spectre comes from the upstairs and it's mixed. Very good. What a pity you're utterly useless to the flock. You could have been the smart one, Dr. Atmosphere smiled sadistically and patted Orion on the head. But today, we're on the upper floor. Please follow me and don't get too far behind, or one of my helpers will be forced to encourage you. And with that, he winked at the suited ponies. With nods, 3 of them at the rear, and leaned forward, jabbing each of the Pegasi with their tasers, shocking them to the ground. Dr. Atmosphere whinnied in laughter as they all yelped and fell, continued in a soft chuckle as they all stood up again. Scootaloo blinked more in tears from her eyes, shook herself again, trying to lose the tingling in her nerves. She turned and quickly looked at each of the suited ponies, catching each of them in the eye when she could. None of them were the rose-dyed pony from the carriage. Begrudgingly, she started to walk behind the red engineer. You simply must be careful in this department, Dr. Atmosphere began in a tone not unlike the many tour guides in the lower floors. There's plenty of nooks and crannies and vents and vats one could fall into. You must be careful not hurt themselves. After all, we're all hopeless as it is. Any more so, and even we couldn't use you. He glanced behind himself maliciously as the 3 foals frowned in an insult. They were walking down the series of halls with vibrating machines, assembly lines lining the way, and occasionally ducking under low-hanging wires, of carefully stepping over steaming pipes as they walked through the building, becoming cooler and cooler. All 3 were watching and sensing, looking for any way out. They couldn't see any. Now, let me tell you a story. Cloudsdale is where the weather is made. Without us, the rest of Equestria would starve, freeze, drown, and generally be not a very happy place. That gives us a special honor. One that can't be tainted by, incompetent fools like you. How could the world look up and trust us if Pegasi like you are flying around wearing the Cloudsdale name? No, we needed to do something with all of you. And then we got the delicious idea. One day, over 1,000 years ago, those were some smart ponies back then, I say. You don't find too many of them these days, but I digress. Ha ha! Here now, through these doors, quickly now, before more encouragement is supplied. Dr. Atmosphere opened a heavy-looking door in a cramped corridor and offered a hoof inside. Scootaloo stared up at him. He glanced at the suited pony. Scootaloo and the others walked inside as he laughed again. Enjoy the rest of your pitiful life. And with that, he slammed the door closed. They all turned and looked at the big room they had been led to. It was fairly open and empty, almost like a theater room. At the one end of the room, there were 6 square vats, each one nearly fully with individual spectra. Above them was a peculiar-looking machine from a central stack, and 6 horses broke off. Lead above each of the individual vats at the top of the stack was a singular opening, red with rusted despite the rest of the machine to be shiny and clean. Even further above, there was a fairly complex-looking object with chains, and the gears hanging off of the beams and pipes loosely. Running even higher than the whole machine was a length of scaffolding, with doors on either side leading out of the room. Down on the floor, a small collection of defeated, crying ponies sat, chatting quietly. Those suits, there, those are from the other flight school across town, Aurora informed, sounding shocked. And those other ponies sitting over there, see? I remember a trip we went on once with Levitating Acres Private School. I remember them from that trip. So, this is where all the failures go. Not deported, but forced to work forever. Orion sobbed quietly in exchange for helping someone. He had doomed himself and his good friend, to a life of servitude. Scootaloo reached a reassuring wing over, lifted his chin. She smiled at him, understanding his depression. At least we don't have to go through alone, she cooed softly. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the group of ex-students. One pony from an unidentified school took off, headed off towards one of the doors on the scaffolding immediately. Two suited ponies launched record speed and both clipped the flyaway with their tasers. The pony spasmed in the air and dropped like stone, with an audible crack as he landed and a violent burst of twitching. All the other ponies walked back, staring horrified at their friend. Hopefully, for a long time, he didn't move. Some cried softly. Most others turned away, too far confused to feel any emotion. I guess that's option's way out. I guess that option's out, Aurora said, to no one in particular. But you can't fly right now anyways. That meta guy, Patches or whatever he was called, he popped my wings back in their joints and bandaged up where my skin tore. I won't be winning any races, but I can fly again. They slowly walk forwards and join the group of ponies, looking at each other, understanding sorrow. Eyes front and center, you intrepid mules, one of the suited ponies shout. After the previous display, no one challenged that order and stared at the scaffolding just as one of the doors opened. How, you ask, are they up to the task? To which the answer is in a simple facility. A few official-looking ponies, Pegasus, walked in on the scaffolding, turned to look down on the group with disgust. One of them stood onto a small podium set up in center and began loudly speaking. By now, you have all clearly determined that you are not going into exile. There is no deportation. There never was. You are in the factory. You will never leave the factory. And while you may be called useless, that is also not entirely true. You're worthless to the flock as a pony, but you still have a purpose. Purpose to all the ponies in this land, far and wide. You get to help us to make rainbows. Beautiful magical rainbows. Doesn't that excite you? The mysterious announcer grinned, ecstatically, taking it in all the disgusted looks from every foal on the floor below him. I thought so, he chuckled. It is just such an honor, you know. It leaves every pony entrusted with the task speechless too. Now, do we have any volunteers? Again, every pony below glared with hate. One brave pony, a light pink one from Levitating Acres, walked forward a few steps and yelled, "How could you ever get away with this? How could Celestia or even Luna know about this and tolerate it? It's slavery. It's torture." I think you'll find it more than that. A second official pony walked out of the shadows and up in the podium. The pony was in the suit and mask. The first pony walked off the podium and allowed the second to talk. Scootaloo noticed that it was the rose-eyed pony from before. She watched more intently. The voice was familiar. 1,000 years ago, when Celestia banished Luna from Equestria and sent her to the moon, she was charged with 3 tasks. She originally was in charge of raising the sun and showering the land with rainbows. But with the moon being an additional task, she had to hand down the responsibility of rainbows. Celestia entrusted the Pegasus of Cloudsdale to make the rainbows for her from them on. For the first dozen years, we were given powerful unicorns to help create spectra. Spectra is pure pigment, pure color. Everything is full spectra, but you can't just harvest it. You can never separate color from an object. It was made artificially with magic. The masked pony never took her eyes off the brave pink one. That is, until our top engineers made a breakthrough. They discovered an ingenious way to extract pigment, and it was so beautiful, even a simple machine could do it. But it couldn't be done with just anything. Conditions had to be right. What did those horrible people do? The pink Pegasus screamed, growling anger by the minute. The mysterious pony whipped off her mask, unveiling more than her rose eyes. Her skin was a cyan, light cyan, and her mane was a gorgeous rainbow. Several of the ponies gasped. Scootaloo's knees weakened as it hit her. It was Rainbow Dash. the bearer of the element of loyalty. Scootaloo's thoughts raced through her mind, and the room started spinning. It couldn't be. An evil twin? Maybe. Perhaps some neglected sister? Rainbow Dash couldn't be this evil. She was her friend, her mentor, her family. Not even if by blood, but how? How? How was she all she could think? It had to be the live ponies. Only in ponies, where magic and spectra ran freely together. Rainbow Dash threw her head back and laughed maniacally. Only then could the spectra be separated. And it was such a beautiful idea, a wonderfully horrible idea. It worked so well. We could exponentially more rainbows of better quality with real spectra. It finally gave us a way to prevent Cloudsdale from being tainted by all those horrible Pegasus which couldn't fly. Scootaloo couldn't take it. With all the ponies were exclaiming their disgust and fear, running and screaming for where they came in, backing off as the suited ponies surrounded them and herded them back into the center of the room. Scootaloo couldn't take it anymore. "I thought you loved me," she wailed, cutting Rainbow Dash's laughter short. "Huh?" She turned and noticed the amber-orange Pegasus. "I thought you loved me. How could you do this to me? I thought you cared for me. After all the help, all my life, you treated me like a little sister, and I treated you like my big sister. You were my big sister. You were the only family I ever had, and you know it." Tears were pouring down her face now, obscuring her vision again. Her throat hurt from the crying and shouting. But she couldn't stop. After everything. You just going to let me die. I tried so hard for you. She stared at the floor for a moment. Everyone was silent, and Scootaloo looked up slowly, while she couldn't see the sadness in her eyes. She looked straight at Rainbow Dash, straight into those rosy eyes, past them, deep into Rainbow Dash herself. "I thought you loved me." Rainbow Dash returned a look. Her eyes revealed no emotion, no love, no care, only apathy. Slowly, however, they glared at Scootaloo. Pure, seething hate erupted from Rainbow Dash's mouth as she screamed in return. "I did love you. I tried so hard for you. I taught you everything I knew in hopes you could pass your damn test. You had it in you, kid. I knew what they did here. Ever since I performed that sonic rainbow, and they approached me. They wanted to find more ways to make spectra. They thought that if I was capable of making rainbows, I could help them make its competence, its components. Well, they couldn't, but I learned a lot about this place. I'm the manager here now. You know, I worked my way up in secret, pretending to only be simple weather control. How do you think I could afford that massive house over Ponyville? How do you..." She trailed off, shaking her head, remembering her anger suddenly. "I tried, all right. It was up to you to save yourself. You didn't just fail yourself. You didn't just fail Cloudsdale. You failed me. And that's the worst thing you could have done. You aren't just dead to Cloudsdale now. You are dead to me." The room tilted as Scootaloo tried to comprehend what she was told. Her mind broke, as she was totally unable to focus anything. She stumbled slightly until Orion held open a wing, and she clung to it for stability. Rainbow Dash noticed this and yelled with more fury. "You can't have happiness. You ruined me. Now I ruin you. Workers, the brown one. The brown one there! Him first! No! Scootaloo and Aurora and Orion all jumped. Suited ponies cornered Orion, pushing the other two to the side. He tried to limp out of the way to run, but one of the stallions spun around and kicked at him. The hoof connected to his shoulder, and Orion collapsed with a shout. Get back! More suits yelled at Orion, at Aurora and Scootaloo as they dragged the whimpering Orion to the front of the room. The machine at the back started humming to life. The assembly of chains lifted off the top and moved towards the floor. Everyone noticed that there were shackles now, and the suits clasped Orion into them. Braving a look up, he turned to Scootaloo. Don't worry, Scoots. I love you. Goodbye. Goodbye, Orion. Scootaloo gasped. I love you too. And with that, the chains pulled tight, lifted the brown Pegasus up all the way up to the gears, and the chains grew taut. The stretched each of Orion's limbs straight up and down. We find the machine works better if the ribs are broken, Rainbow Dash explained apathetically as the chains spun around in opposite directions, twisting Orion. His screams almost covered the echoing, popping, and shattering. One of the two jagged bones tore his side, and his yells faded to a slow, quiet rattle of his breath. The chains untwisted, and the shackles opened, dropping the shattered pony into the single opening. Scootaloo watched in horror, her brain overcome with what's happening, detaching from all emotion. She noticed that the top of the machine wasn't rusting. It was blood. Blood! Just like what was being tossed from the mangled remains of Orion. As the rest of his body was swallowed into the great machine, finishing with one low hoof directed straight up. Then there was nothing. As the hoses over the green and red vats of spectrum started spewing out their brilliant colors, Scootaloo's vision started to fade, and the last thing she remembered was Aurora's concern, broken voice saying her name as Scootaloo flopped to the side. In the Rainbow Factory, where your fears and horrors come true. In the Rainbow Factory, where not a single soul gets through. Scootaloo, get up, get up, now hurry. Scootaloo, wake up, wake up. Scootaloo shook her head, briefly wondering where she was and what's happening, and in a flash, it all came back. She jumped to her feet. Aurora was shaking her, fright encasing her face. The suits were starting to approach the two, now tasers and shackles up and ready. Scootaloo, they're coming for us. What do we do? Scootaloo looked for an opening. All the doors were blocked except one on the scaffolding. The suited ponies were slowly approaching, and now not rushing in order to prevent the fillies from freaking out. Fear was their tool. Scootaloo spun around and looked for an exit. There was only one, she realized. I have a plan, she whispered to Aurora. What's that? Clear, fly, fall, complete. Aurora nodded, understanding, her eyes widening. She repeated louder so the others, frightened fillies, could hear. Clear, fly, fall, complete. 1, Scootaloo started counting. 2, Aurora squeaked as she backed into Scootaloo. The suits were mere feet away now. 3, a collective shout reverberated around the room as every filly that could actually fly took off. The suited ponies gasped and fell back, unsure to where to go. There was too much confusion as a few of the faster thinking once, took off as well, tasers at the ready, aiming at the closest Pegasus they could take. Step 1. Clear. With her command, the failures started targeting dark ponies in droves. Hooves connected with heads, and while some of the students fell lifeless to the floor, the majority of the casualties were the suited ponies. Scootaloo and Aurora land on the scaffolding right by the door. Reached to the open. It was locked. Oh, Celestia, what do we do now? Aurora cried. We still on clear, she shouted, turning and bucking the door. Aurora followed her, focusing the brunt of her blows on the part of the wall where the latch would be. Rainbow Dash, on the other side of the scaffolding, recovered her initial shock of the rebellion and noticed Scootaloo pounding the door. Kill her! She screamed at the important-looking ponies. Kill her! She started to gallop towards the fillies, forgetting her wings momentarily. Scootaloo closed her eyes, pounding harder and harder on the door. It started to squeak and splinter, and any second now, she thought, Rainbow Dash will get here. It's over. I'm doomed, she would have cried, but there was no more tears left, but nothing came. The door started to split from its frame, and now leaning inwards. It would be not long enough until it was open. She opened her clenched eyes, peeking up at the scaffolding, at the remaining ponies that were there, pressing together, holding the enraged blue Pegasus and her cronies back. They wouldn't last for long. However, even as Scootaloo watched, twitching and yelping ponies were falling to the floor, and some even landing into the great maw of the Spectrum machine. The pink pony from Levitating Anchors was there, and she turned to Scootaloo and Aurora just as the door blew back into the hall behind. Fly! The pink pony demanded, with pain in her voice. She opened her mouth to speak, but she was cut off by the pile of Pegasus blew apart, with Rainbow Dash standing enraged at her opening. She was one of her two back hooves, her front two rolling in the air. A small gash down her side leaked red, and her multicolored mane was a torn patch. An unearthly howl passed her lips, and her rose eyes were drained of any sanity that was left. Come on, Aurora. We gotta fly if we're going to live. I can't. This is too much. I haven't healed. You go, Scootaloo. Tell everyone what happened here. Let them know. She glanced at the wall of students, almost bare now, as Rainbow Dash's bloodlust tore them to the pieces. Her blue coat was now glistening crimson, almost dripping as she ignored the life for the ponies. There would be more. Cloudsdale took a small shortage of rainbows. In about a few months, there would be more classes, more failures. But for now, all she knew is that Scootaloo had to die. Violently, if possible. Decades of working for the Rainbow Factory had fractured her. She was the only one allowed out in the factory in public, and keeping the horrible secret with her since childhood had only lead to psychological problems that no amount of therapy could cure. Scootaloo was her last link of sanity, and her failure has deleted that. There was no logic in her mind anymore, no care, no capacity for compassion, only hate, pure, concentrated, and evil hatred fill the gap her love for Scootaloo has once occupied. Rainbow Dash was no more. Only this monster remained. I hardly knew you, Aurora, Scootaloo cooed. Softly into the yellow Pegasus beside her. I'm sorry I never knew you until all of this. I'm sorry we had to meet like this, and I'm sorry we had to part like this, she sniffled. She had found more tears. Any meeting of a friend is a welcome meeting, assured Scootaloo. Aurora looked and waved at Scootaloo. Now, you heard the other pony. Fly, Scootaloo. Fly! Goodbye! Goodbye, Aurora. With that, Scootaloo levitated and spun around, looking into the yellow pony's last eyes one last time, and then launched down the cramped corridor. She had no idea where she was going, but at any chance at freedom was one she had to take. Aurora blinked a couple of times. Standing in front of the door, Rainbow Dash would have at least one obstacle in her way to Scootaloo. The blue pony tossed the last of the other students over the scaffolding and slowly walked towards Aurora. How cute! You think that you, a useless broken pile of manure, could possibly stand in my way? You really make me laugh. None of you can compete with the awesome power I have. Love can overcome all evils in this world. Aurora straightened herself in rebellion as Rainbow Dash stopped in front of her. Aurora stayed in front of Dash, barring her entry in the corridor beyond. Well then, bitch. Let's see if love will overcome this one. And with that, Rainbow Dash grabbed Aurora's bandaged wing and pulled, tearing it off her completely. Aurora collapsed onto her knees, grinding her teeth and in horrible pain. But she didn't scream. She won't give in to Rainbow. Not in Rainbow Dash grabbed her wing and dragged her kicking, moaning down to the center of the scaffolding. She lifted Aurora up by the wing, laughing quietly to herself as she took the intensity agony appeared on Aurora's face. Rainbow Dash took to the air, bringing the squirming yellow-green pony with her over the top of the machine. With a squeak of evil laughter, she jerked at the wing in her hoof. It too disconnected from now the convulsing Pegasus, and Aurora fell. She landed head first, the door on the scaffolding closed with the honest wing. Just as the machine begun to pump out the brightest greens and yellows it had ever produced, there was no one around to see it. Scootaloo glanced backwards momentarily, her heart pounding. Her noise of a constant thump and thump and thump drowned out any sound in her head, her eyes throbbing along with it. The corridor was just like the other that led to the theater, crammed with dozens of obstacles just out of any end. Straight behind her, many 500 meters, the bloody mare that was once Rainbow Dash was cruising along herself. Both Pegasi were competing straight, hooves forward, wings beating at any impossible count, one trying to escape, the other to capture. Scootaloo looked forward again, focusing on what lay ahead of her. That's all that matters, she thought. What matters of me? What's ahead of me? There's no change for what's behind me. Ignore it. Focus. For the second time in as many days as flooded of instinct overtook Scootaloo, and despite the terror that she felt in her body, the sorrow that had surrounded her, the evil behind her worries felt the pain. And the thought of flying encased her very being. Down under the wires behind she died, up and around various workers. Zipped up and down, trying to make the avail. She contemplated every nook and cranny she passed. Briefly, she considered hiding. She struck that idea down. As insane as Rainbow Dash may be, she was too smart to overtook any possible spot Scootaloo may be. But there, ahead of her, Scootaloo found a solution. A garbage vent of some kind, sticking out from the wall to the floor. Momentarily she gave thought of where it may lead, whether out of the factory or in some incinerator. She couldn't tell, but it was probably worth the risk. She snuck one last glance behind her to make sure the unstable mare was far enough away. Rainbow Dash was paying no attention to any hazard as she sought her prey, tearing through the electrical wires, ricocheting off heat pipes, going through obstacle rather than around it to save time. But the collisions had slowed her down enough to give Scootaloo a chance. She slammed suddenly a halt, opened the vent, and hoping for her life. "Fall," she muttered, closing her eyes and her wings, and resisting the urge to start flapping immediately. She counted silently to herself as the shadows rushed past her closed eyes, hoping the best of where this vent lead. 1, 2, 3. She opened her eyes, and her wings looked up. Hovering Rainbow Dash was up above, looking down into the vent. Her eyes were buggy and twitched. Her hooves pounded on the edge of the vent. She was too large to follow. The filly had barely made it into herself, but then the anger in her voice vanished, only to be replaced by a malicious grin. She started laughing, the cackle echoing down the vent and reverberating into Scootaloo's mind. "You moron! You never did have a good sense of direction," she teased. Laughing again, Scootaloo finally looked down, getting her bearings. "Oh no!" she screamed. She was in the theater room again, only by now it was full of suited ponies circling her. Their masks seemed to be grinning at her as Rainbow Dash shouted orders down the vent. "Don't let her die. I must do it. I subdue her. Catch her!" she whinnied, in glorious victory as the suits shocked Scootaloo with a taser, and as her limp body began to fall from the air and brought her to the floor. Scootaloo blacked out momentarily as the electricity passed through her. She came to the lining of the cold cloud floor, metal shackles preventing her from moving. She struggled to get free. She could hardly shake. The chains lifted sorrowfully, bringing her small body eye to eye with the Pegasus in front of her. The pony was a deep blood red, glistening in artificial light of the factory. Her mane had small spots of glorious colors of the rainbow, but that was mostly of the same red color as her coat of fur. Chunks of skin were missing from the spots, and her hair was ripped in some places, bald patches of skin in others. The only clue Scootaloo had as to who this used to be were the rose iris focused on her. Any final words, you miserable, worthless shit of a fool? Scootaloo brought her chin high, still demanding ever the tiny satisfaction of digging. "You have beautiful eyes," she cooed softly, yet clearly. So this story, like I said, this story was obviously written by, well, one of the characters in the story, Aurora Dawn. Now, this is obviously, like I said before in my old video, that is basically cringe, by the way, this is one of my favorite creepypasta fanfic readings. Not only because of my favorite character, Rainbow Dash, but because this is the pony because this story is all about the mystery, the terror, and most of all, the cliffhanger. It's always, like, everybody can't resist of a good cliffhanger. Like, all the intensity is up high. Will the villain win? Will the hero win? Who knows? This story is basically good. And honestly, like I said, I credited Orodon very greatly with this story. And honestly, I think it goes on par with, well, I'm not going to try to be favorite here, but trying to pick favorites here, but I think this goes on par with Sonic.exe, except it doesn't take place in the real world with humans. It takes place in the world of Equestria, where the protagonist knows that her friend is basically this evil villain, and then notices that there's only one way to do is fight back, and only then we reach to this massive climax, this cliffhanger. This we reach to this cliffhanger where we don't know if the hero would win or fall. I know there were sequels to this story, like, the Pegasus device, or when Scootaloo becomes Abyssinia or whatnot, but honestly, nothing can compete more than the original. As the old saying goes, nothing beats the original. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this double video of experiments on Twilight Sparkle and how almost long it is and mostly takes up most of this video, and the remaster of the Rainbow Factory. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and of course, enjoy, like, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, time for me to spin out. Oh, by the way, I probably noticed that you guys have liked most of my videos so far. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be returning to the voting post on the community, on my community tab, to see what kind of content would you like, what kind of content you guys like to see next. Anyways, until next time, time for me to spin out for good. Not for good. Time for me to spin out until the next video. See ya! Like how many stories began? It was nice, sunny day in Ponyville. But this was no ordinary day in Ponyville. This was the day before the first anniversary of Twilight Sparkle's arrival at Ponyville. Spike was sorting books in Twilight's library, putting them in their proper order on the bookshelves. Twilight signaled Twilight to uh, bleh. Twilight signaled Spike to come to her. Come to her. Blah. Oh boy. Okay, this is gonna be one of the bloopers. So yeah, editor, put some bloopers at the before we, end this video. So yeah. Anyways, take it from the top. Like how? Bleh. Okay, there's another one. Time for another blooper. Beep.